Hello everyone and welcome back to PSGL here for F6 on the PlayStation side of PSGL, here for round 10 of season 30 at the Brazilian Grand Prix around the great Interlagos circuit here for what I'm sure will be another brilliant instalment into what has already been a pretty crazy season. I am your commentator Jackson, and we are hopefully ready for an exciting qualifying session and an exciting race ahead of us. Interlagos always brings some great racing. That long straight followed by a DRS zone out of turn 3 into turn 4. It is just perfect for racing, and I look forward to seeing what these guys today can do around this great circuit. Of course, the circuit steeped in history. Of course, famously, Senna struggled to win his home Grand Prix for many years, and eventually did manage to get it, and in great fashion he did so, winning with, I believe, when the car was stuck in 4th gear, which is just incredible. Let's hope none of the drivers here have any of those issues today as we prepare for today's qualifying session. Looks like we're just counting down to quali, so let's hope this all goes well without any problems. So let's all look forward to this very much, and should be a fun event to watch. Just under 10 seconds now until we load into qualifying. Not the most important qualifying session of the season. Interlagos track, you definitely can pass that, but at the same time a DRS train can very much form here, so you don't want to qualify too badly. Perhaps you want to start sort of just outside the top 10, get those medium tyres for the start. Perhaps there's some advantage there for some of these drivers, but at the same time, you know, whilst qualifying isn't the most important, anywhere in the top sort of 5 drivers should be very happy with. That should definitely give you a good chance of the victory, but at the same time, you know, worst case scenario, you do qualify sort of back end of the top 10 or back end of the field. If you've got the pace, then you can get yourself back up the order here. It's very much a track you can overtake on, and I look forward to seeing what these guys can pull off today, as it should be quite entertaining for all of us viewers, who, if you're like me, are very excited for this race, as we look towards the next instalment in this championship, which has been a strange championship, I suppose you could say. We've seen a lot of domination early in the season from Kart Racer, but I think we're off the back of 4 or 5 different winners in the last 4 or 5 races, so it's really got pretty crazy. And when we're speaking about crazy, look at the weather. It is raining here in Brazil. Perhaps unsurprisingly, the weather quite unusual and quite interchanging around these parts of Sao Paulo, so this may well throw us back in the works for all these drivers. I imagine they've probably focused their practice on drive running as most people do. However, this rain could perhaps bring some surprises in there. If someone has practiced wet more than another driver, then that could mix things up, and we could see a different name at the front of the grid today. So let's look forward to this. We've got a lot of drivers on wets at the moment, but a few have switched to the intermediate tyres, perhaps thinking that this weather is going to die down slightly, or maybe they just think the intermediate tyre is the quicker of the tyre. So already we're seeing some mixing up in the field, but I imagine it shouldn't take too long until these drivers pick a better tyre for the session, and I imagine after that they will I mean, it's quite possible if this rain does change, if it gets less bad, then we could well see the conditions again switch to a point where intermediates or wets, no one really knows which is better. That is quite possible around a track like this. However, it looks at the moment the majority have gone with a wet tyre, and if it gets any heavier, I'm sure they will stay with that wet weather tyre. A lot of drivers heading out onto the track at the moment now as they look to try and get some track running here in these wet conditions. The most important thing is just being on the racetrack, getting in the laps, because it's new every time when it's raining. You never know exactly what it's going to be like, so you just need to be out there to get the experience, to feel what grip you have on offer, and take it and make it work, because that is one of the trickiest things to do in this sort of racing. The wet weather, not an easy condition to survive in. But these drivers now heading out onto the track for this session. Van der Brugge, one of the first drivers to start a lap here. He is on the intermediate tyres. Let's see, will he stay out? He is going to stay out. So let's see how this goes for him. And we'll watch him head his way down towards turn 1. I must say the track does look like a wet track, but of course it's never entirely possible to get a good idea of what the grip is like unless you're in one of those cars. Realistically, they're the only people that have the best idea of what exactly the track conditions and weather conditions are like here. So I suppose we'll wait and see, give it a few laps, and But the timing tower will tell us exactly what tyre is best. That's an 18.8 in the first sector for Van der Brugge. And let's see, what will someone else do here? J-Sack coming through, what's he going to do? And perhaps a mistake, but that's a 19.7, so who knows, maybe there is some pace in these intermediate tyres. Let's see, what is Cameron going to do now? Will he go quicker than his teammate in this first sector? Just give us a first idea of what tyre is better across the split, and it's a 19.0, so far the intermediate tyres are looking pretty good. There's used to some yellow flags out there at the moment, so Van der Brugge's going to be someone to watch, and he hasn't validated his lap, sadly, so we're not going to get that idea just yet, but Davey is on a lap now. Davey, of course, won last time out and got himself up into third in the championship as things stand. But yeah, he is now on a lap on the intermediate tyres. Let's see what he can do in that Mercedes car. Can he put himself in the fight for pole position yet again? Very strong showing in Zandvoort, really worked that qualifying session and raced very well. So if he can repeat that, he can definitely get himself even higher in the championship, as Milan sets the fastest time of the session so far, 1:17.978 here. Let's look at what Davey can do. Through sector 2 he goes. Lynx beats Milan's time on the wet tyres, goes to a 17.631. More and more lap times coming in now, and we're seeing that the wet tyres, of course, they're generally most picked tyres, so they're all at the top at the moment. But let's see, what can Davey do on this lap? Can he put himself up into the mix with the wet tyre runners? Out of the final corner now, coming towards the start-finish line. Where will this put him? Across the line now, and it's pole, well, provisionally, to Davey, who will take the fastest time of the session so far. Intermediate tyres looking good here in Interlagos. The inter in the name meaning quite literally inters at the moment. So Davey at the top of the times by 0.7 of a second. You would have to assume that intermediate tyre is the stronger one, as he is improving on his lap already here. So will he go again, try this lap once more, and see if he can prove even further in this session? If we have a brief look at the championship whilst we watch these early laps come in, as Van der Brugge also on the Inters goes up into second, so the Inters do look better at the moment. If we look at the championship briefly, it's a 42-point championship lead for kart racers still at this point of the season, which is nearly 3 race wins of points ahead of second. However, last week he failed to score points, struggling with no line for the first time, so he'll be looking to try and bounce back this week, but these wet conditions aren't going to make life much easier for him today, so he'll be hoping it's a dry race up ahead. But at the moment, down yet to set a lap time. Let's have a look. Is he on a lap now? As Davey comes across the line and does improve by a massive margin there. Now 1.2 seconds ahead of second place. Davey flying at the moment as kart racer makes his way around the lap. Let's see what he can do, avoiding those big puddles, which wouldn't be much fun on the intermediate tyres. Makes his way down this steep, long left-hander. Should be flat, well, it'll be pretty much flat out in the dry. Not quite so much in the wet, I don't imagine, as he has a big slide coming out of the final corner. That was quite an exciting moment for kart racer, who I imagine lost him a little bit of time, but certainly made him look quite a bit cooler as he makes his way onto the start-finish straight now. Across the line, where will kart racer go? It's second there. Just half a second behind Davey, so good first lap. As Davey has retired from the session, is that a crash at the final part of the lap? But that's a strange place to go off. He must have lost it on throttle coming up the hill. So that is certainly a surprise, as more and more drivers are boxing to equip the intermediate tyre. Yes, back onto the championship. It is 42 point gap to Jonah in second. Then it's Davey in third, 48 points off the championship lead, which is indeed a whole 3 race wins away, which only with 6 races left, including this one. It's going to be hard to break that one down, but kart racer, he could not score for the rest of the season. As long as the rest of the field is inconsistent enough, like they have been all season long, he could still win this championship, because pretty much 3 race wins ahead of the field with 6 races left. To get that sort of 3 race wins worth of points, it's not as easy as just get 3 race wins. We haven't seen anyone other than kart race this season get more than 3 wins. So it's going to be a tough ask for all these drivers. I think if they worked together, they definitely could beat him if he struggled for the season. But let's face it, these guys aren't going to team up the entire grid versus kart racer, as I imagine that is fair. So yeah, kart racer doing well at the moment, as big slide there from J-Sack. Doing very well here. On the outlap here, just trying to get those tyre temps up at this stage. Flying in these wet conditions. Put a lap on the board, or starts a lap on the board. Actually, that was a lap. Oh, that's... Oh, I'm very confused there by the timing tower indeed. Yeah, that was a slightly odd situation there. But let's go on board now with Jasak for his first proper lap of the session. Sorry about that brief pause from commentary, but we're back now. Lynx has gone to the top of the times, as you will have seen. In the meantime, on the intermediate tyres, doesn't look like he's on it on this next lap. But Lynx at the top of the times now for Ferrari. He's had a good few races recently. There's one quite recently, if I'm not mistaken. So let's see what he can do, as he did indeed, probably on a cooldown lap just after that previous flying lap. Let's have a look at where Lynx is. Lynx 7th in the championship at the moment, and has not won recently, sadly. Was on the podium last race, and that was it. I remember now. He was put in quite an exciting drive last week. Didn't quite seem to have the pace to battle for the win, but he hung into that sort of lead group throughout the entire final stint of the race, which was quite an impressive drive from the Ferrari driver, who has, I believe, 3 podiums on the season so far, but also 4 DNFs, which have perhaps held him back just a little bit across on the point side of things. But 7th in the championship, and we'll be looking to climb up as the battle for second is very close with these guys. So Lynx trying to make his way up the order now, currently on provisional pole, but Davey only attempting a bit behind. Kart Racer in 3rd, half a second behind. These guys are, well, insanely close at the moment, despite the conditions. I know it's half a second, but in conditions like this, half a second is not much, because that's one bit of wheel spin away. Because in these conditions, you lose it slightly and you lose it in a big way. It's hard to have a small mistake in wet conditions, I feel. But yeah, these guys are doing well so far in this, as Lynx goes even faster. First driver into the 15s, and now we're starting to see Lynx flex his muscles at the top of the timesheets, doing a really good job so far in this session. And it's a strong lap there from the Ferrari driver, looking to lock himself into that pole position. But so far, doing all he needs to do, as the rest of the field is left watching and wondering what they can do to get onto that level of pace. You have to assume maybe there's some setup differences that are helping Lynx in this situation. I'm not suggesting that he's not getting now fully on pace, but that big of a margin between first and second there in a field that we've seen across the season has been incredibly close. I have to wonder whether there's something more at play here, as Yagazan has crashed out. That is a strange place to crash there. Let's try and have a look at, from Davy's view, what has happened to the second Mercedes. Oh, he's in the pit exit. Wow, that's a strange place to crash. He must have lost it coming off of turn 3 and have clobbered the inside wall, or the outside wall and bounced to the inside. And yeah, that is Yagazan out of of this session. Davey on his way around the track, trying to go and improve his time, as Milan has improved his time. He's up onto a 16.3 now for Aston Martin. He's trying to make something happen as he bit of a slide down the hill there. And another car around down at the bottom of the hill. Is that Michelizzi? No, it is his teammate of Mitch, Jerry Mitch, who's had some sort of moment down here in the Senna S, and now trying to get himself out of the barriers and back on to the racing circuit. Let's see, is anyone on laps at the moment here? Jake Marsh just starting a lap, I believe, maybe here. Making his way around Sector 1, currently sitting 6th in the times. Driver who's only had a few point scoring finishes this season, sits 14th in the championship at the moment. But yes, not had the best season so far, but one of the drivers in the field that do use completely no assists, so he'll be looking to try and do even more here. He's been steadily improved throughout the season, and I think if he keeps this up, he'll have a lot to be proud of come the end of the season. Many drivers that perhaps have flown under the radar this season, with just consistent points finishes, and sort of those one-off appearances, perhaps into the top 10, into the top 5 even, as Jake is improving here on this lap. There's quite a lot of drivers who have not been quite in the fight for podiums and wins, and have just sort of flown under that radar, as they've sort of had their own development throughout the season, which is of course great to see, and I imagine we'll see more of some of these drivers into next season as well. As Jake crosses the line, he's going to jump up into 6th place, head championship leader kart racer, who now drops into 7th as he sits in the pit lane at the moment. Davey, is he on a lap as we watch him come down the hill once more towards the final proper corner, final braking zone of the lap? He is 2.5 tenths up. That would not be enough for him to get links, however it would be enough to get him just about, if he improves by a few more milliseconds, into the 115s. It would be a good place to put himself in as he comes around the final corner. Across the line now, where is Davey going to go? He's going to go P2 here, but does get into the 115s, which I'm sure will be a sort of a small relief to what he's done there. But yes, Davey up into the 115s, one of 2 drivers to do it so far in this session. Yes, Milan, well, a 16.3 invalidated his next lap. Perhaps was pushing again there because he was slightly up, although I say that he's now obviously massively down as he lets cars going through. But yes, that is an interesting situation that we have up here, as these drivers are now going to start preparing themselves for their final runs of the session. Is there anyone who can beat Lynx in these conditions? He looks pretty unbeatable so far, but who knows what is possible here in these sorts of weather conditions. They always throw a spanner in the works for so many of these drivers, so it's impossible to call until that checkered flag falls. Milan going again here. Is he pushing on this lap? It would appear to as so. Comes through the sector 1 split and he's slightly down, but not many corners in sector 1, only realistically the centre S, so just to match that first time, unless you know you made a mistake, is a pretty good start to lap as he goes off and he's around into the wall. Big crash there. Is he going to keep it out of the balls? Well, he's in the wall, but he's kept all 4 wheels attached to the car, which is impressive in its own right, but a big mistake there from Milan, pushing too hard. And that could well be his qualifying session over, as there is not long left now. So that is some trouble for the Aston Martin driver, as Davey is now on another lap. Can he improve enough to take pole away from Lynx? He's down by almost a 10th in the first sector. Unless he's made some sort of change to his setup or to the car through that first sector, this has not been a good lap so far. You need to really hook up all 3 sectors, it appears. But he has just set a lap that's only a 10th off of Lynx, so if he can just find another 10th, he can be in the fight for this pole position. But at the moment, running in 2nd and doing his best to try and challenge Lynx, as he'll prepare for another push lap now in this session. Lynx invalidates his lap now. Can't tell how long's left in the session because the yellow flag's out on the racetrack, so hopefully they will disappear soon. So we can get another. There's 1 minute left in the session, so Lynx, if he's quick, should get another lap in this session with about 10 seconds left on the clock. So he's going to do what he can as Milan has retired in the pits there. His session is over. Van der Brugge also retiring from 5th there. So these guys starting to believe that they can't do any more. Of course, if you're in the pits now, you're not going to have enough time to get out onto the track to have another lap. So it's looking like the contenders for this pole position are narrowing down as Davey goes down through the first sector. How has this Senna S been for the Mercedes driver? What can he do in Sector 1? Will it be enough to challenge? It's a 10th down in the first sector. So far, not great, but if you can claw something back in the rest of the lap, maybe, just maybe he can do something. But as things stand, it's not going well for the Mercedes driver. Let's go on board with him now. So we come up the hill, turns right, as no, it just doesn't look to be working for him. He's struggling, he's got problems in that Mercedes. I don't think this is going to be the lap that he needs. Now into these slow speed, twisty bits of the lap. Just got to get your throttle on nice and carefully. Is the most important thing now in this part of the lap. I believe this lap doesn't look like the one he needed. Through Sector 2, let's see, any confirmation of the lap time. He's only a 10th down, but there's only one corner that you really can gain time for in the final sector. So I believe Davey and his session are over. He is not going to be able to improve on to pole position, as Mitch now retires as well. But let's confirm. Davey across the line, where's it going to go? He improves slightly, but it's not enough. What could have been there for Davey with mistakes in the first couple of sectors, not able to improve. Kart Racer's up by a couple tenths, but Lynx is the driver on a big lap at the moment. Can he improve further? He's already a 10th up. He's on provisional pole position. Can he go even faster? He goes wide. He's not going to be able to improve in this session. That is the lap time for everyone to beat Kart Racer. He's 4 tenths up apparently. If that's true, he may well get a chance at this with a good final sector. Across the line now, it's only third for Kart Racer, but he is the third driver to break his way into the 115s in these tricky conditions. And that is it now. Everyone has had a lap. It is the Ferrari of Lynx on pole position for this Brazilian Grand Prix here in PSGL F6. That was a fairly exciting qualifying session, but Lynx looked like he had control of the field here as he put in quite the session to take, certainly not a dominant pole, but he was certainly the quickest driver throughout that qualifying session. However, who knows what some other drivers might be capable of. Perhaps some mistakes mixed in here. Could we see something different happen in the race? Of course, the race is always a very different animal, so we will always see some sort of mix-up. But what will the weather be? If it's dry, could we see Lynx perhaps struggle more in the dry conditions? Or if it's wet, will we see Lynx just dominate and pull away? Or will someone else who perhaps didn't really show up in those quali laps, someone who perhaps made a mistake? It's quite possible that anyone could get up here in the field. And you can see there just the domination of the top few drivers there. It's nearly 6 tenths back to 4th place of Milan, and only the top 8 cars within a second. That's a fairly spread out grid. Sorry, it's top 9 cars within a second here, but a relatively spread out grid for a race, especially on a short circuit like Interlagos. It's time to see what these drivers can do in race conditions. Will it be wet? Will it be dry? We load in. Could be exciting to see what happens next. And that looks like a dry track to me. We could see a mixed up race here. The DRS enabled could change a lot as well. Who knows what will happen? Nobody does, realistically. That's a script that no one has shown me. These drivers preparing for the race. Whilst the field was relatively spread out in qualifying, that was largely down to the conditions, of course. The wet weather meaning that the field spread is obviously much bigger because it's harder to get that perfect lap in those conditions. In the dry, it will be interesting to see how far that DRS train goes down the order, because, of course, we're expecting it. But the question is, will it be the top 5 breaking away? Will it be the top 2 breaking away? Will it be the top 3? Will it be the top 10? Will it be the top 15? That is the question we have. And I think the key thing is, one of the most important things in a race like this is, well, first of all, everyone has free choice of tires, so everyone's going to pick whatever they want. But if a lot of people at the front pick softs, if you're the first car in mediums, you need to be able to stay in that DRS train. But equally, if everyone goes with mediums, if you pick softs, that's perhaps a bit of a worry for your second stint. So now, the drivers are on the grid, ready for the formation lap. Let's have a look at what tyre everyone has picked for this start. Lynx is on the medium tyre, so is Davey, Kart Racer and Milan, top 4, all on the medium compound of tyre, with Cameron in P6 on the softs, in P5 on the softs. Then you got Van der Brugge on the mediums in P6. Haas team had a good qualifying there, and they have split their strategies for the race. Jake Marsh, the second of 3 cars on the soft compound tyre here, going for something different, perhaps hoping for an earlier safety car to get himself into the mix. Then it is Bottle and Charlie Moon in 8th and 9th. Mitch rounds out the top 10 with Mikulitsi in 11th, Fruitful in 12th, Jasak in 13th, Yagazan on the soft, one of 3 drivers and the final of the 3 drivers on the soft combat tyres for this race start, in 14th. Then we've got Chiquito in 15th, Dommel in 16th, and Rafa, who crashed in qualifying of course, is in 17th. So now we should have a mixed race. Who knows what could happen? Could there be weather on the way? Could that explain why most of the field went for medium tyres? It's relatively overcast conditions here in Interlagos, so anything could happen, and in racing it usually does. The cars making their way around towards the grid. You can see that links with a big gap to the rest of the field on this formation lap. He wants to get this one over and done with, wants to warm up his tyres and get going. Davey taking it a bit easier, making sure that he's got those tyres perfectly for him. We see the field lining up on the grid now, getting ready for this race start. The last few cars are falling into position now. I hope you're all ready watching this race. Who is going to come out on top? All cars are in position, and we are getting ready for this race start. The lights are on, and we are racing in Interlagos. Is it a good enough start for Lynx to hold the lead? It is. He gets a great start as the Haas cars have nearly collided before they've even got to turn 1. But it's Lynx who will lead down the hill into turn 1 through the centre S. Davey trying to keep up with him here as there's more battling. Further back in the pack, got side by side, nearly 3 wide here between the Haas's and the Williams of Jake Marsh here. They're battling down towards turn 4, and we already have a virtual safety car as Jasak is out of the race before they've even got to turn 4. Looks like there may have been some drama here in the midfield on this first lap. Certainly something happened there. The 2 Haas cars got very close off that start. Looked like they had perhaps maybe even some contact, but certainly something happened between those 2. And that allowed Jake to jump the pair of them into 5th place. But Milan kart racer, Davey and Lynx all held position on lap 1. Didn't move too much. Let's have a look at who moved where. This virtual safety car has sort of frozen this field before we really got going. But Lynx with everyone in the top 4 maintained position. Jake gained 2. Then we have further back in the field, Chiquito gained 3, and Mitch lost 3, with Jasak of course retiring from the race, losing 4 spots in the process. So not ideal start for the AlphaTauri there, as he sadly retires before the end of lap 1. Now on the safety car, everyone is staying out and getting ready for the restart. You can see them warming their tyres, preparing for us to go green. When will we go back to racing? We await the end of the virtual safety car. Could happen at any moment. Of course, these drivers will be warned a little bit ahead of time so they know what's happening. They're getting ready now. As you can see, they're using ERS, and we are back to green flag racing. Will Kart Racer have a look at Davey into turn 4? Just stays behind there. As there's changes of position further back in the pack, we've got Jake Marsh and Cameron battling away as they're side by side, coming up the hill. Both drivers on the soft combat tyre. They need to get ahead of each other. Cameron's going to go all the way around the outside, and he's going to pull off that move and get to head up into 5th place and regains his starting position for the Haas driver. First car on softs once more, as these leaders playing nice so far in this race. We'll see how long that one lasts for. I think all these guys in the top group know that the most important thing for them to do is to hold that DRS to the race leader, because if you lose that, you are going to lose a lot of time in this one. So they make their way up the hill and down towards the start finish line, and they go. Lynx leads them away on lap 2 of the race. So far so good, as he sets the fastest lap in doing so. They battle away towards turn 1. Is there any action further back in the pack? As we saw nearly contact there between, I believe, the Milan and one of the Haas cars. We do have an instant further back in the pack, and DRS is enabled now. But look at this, battling as there's been some sort of issue for Vandenbroek, who's lost quite a bit of time in turn 1. Perhaps spun up the rears. Mitch has dropped back to the back of the pack, so perhaps he's had an issue down here in turn 1. Has he had contact with someone? The Alpine driver, let's wait until we see an off-board. But something's certainly gone wrong. He's lost about 6 seconds in Sector 1. Has he got any damage to the car? No visible damage, but of course there could be something hidden under the surface of that Alpine that is causing him issues. But Mitch certainly has had some sort of problem in Sector 1. But Lynx still controlling this race at the front. Davy's going to manage this one. We saw him manage the race in Zandvoort absolutely perfectly. Got everything absolutely right. Not a mistake that at least I saw. He'll be looking to try and make something happen here in this race. In second place, got DRS open in the slipstream of Lynx. Yellow flags as Mitch has had another issue, and he's got a round at the final corner about some hot tyres on that Alpine. But Davey sitting behind the Ferrari. Look out, they're almost bumping each other further back in the pack here. Cameron wants to get up the order. The Haas car looks like it has the grip on those soft tyres to try and make something happen. In fifth place at the moment, but wants to make that fourth. He's going to go to the inside of turn 4. Will he make this one stick? No, he's going to back out of it. As you see the Alpine, the Alfa Romeo and Haas car battle in the background. Now there's Charlie Moon, who will get up in to 7th place. These guys already lost the lead group, so they will, well, unless there's a safety car, their battle in this race is for 7th position, as these lead guys, top 7, have broken away from the rest of the pack. Brilliant work here. So, top 7 have done exactly what they needed to do. Keep it clean, make no mistakes, and you... Oh, is that contact? Milan has made a mistake, or maybe he's been hit. We've seen Cameron getting very close to the rear as they're still side by side. Will there be room given? Cameron's going to go to the inside, and just like I was saying how clean these guys have been, it's, well, bumper cars, quite frankly, through the final corner. Jake Marsh up into 4th, but all these guys have now lost the DRS and have backed into the other group. All they needed to do was play nice, and they were going to be in a much better situation as they're still racing hard here. Cameron and Milan, they are not happy with each other here as they have lost DRS lead group, and that is realistically their best shot at staying with the podium fight gone, unless Jake can make something happen on these soft compound tyres. Everyone in front is on the mediums. If he puts in some qualifying laps here, he may just be able to reel in the top group. As that's Milan and Cameron battling away once more. They're side by side into turn 4. Will there be contact like there was last time these two raced? They're still side by side. Cameron's gone around the outside of one car, up through here once. Can he do it again? Later on the brakes. Oh, there's contact, and around goes Milan. More contact between those two, and Milan spins and is going to drop all the way down to the back of the pack. Aston Martin will not be happy, as once more in this race there is contact between Cameron and Milan. Those two will be having discussions after this race, I am sure. Lynx still controlling this one though. Jake Marsh has reeled in a little bit, but he's going to lose a lot of time on the straight. Without DRS, he's just going to drop back in his pack. But only 4 attempts out of the DRS of the car ahead. If these guys work together in the battle for 4th, maybe they can get back in the DRS. That's another problem, as Bottle has gone into the grass at the final corner and is dropping down and is down into 15th place. Lots of drivers having some issues early in this race. One retirement and quite a few drivers with some problems. We've got battling down the hill. Micheluzzi has, I believe, just been passed by Agzan, who's up to the points, as Milan has retired from the race. He is out as we got battle. 4P4. Cameron's going to pass Jake Marsh. These two on the soft compound tyres. If they work together, they might be able to get back in the DRS. But these two clearly busy battling each other at the moment. Cameron up into a 4th position in this race. And perhaps controversially so, after the incident with Milan there. As Bottle gets a 3-second time penalty. Multiple warnings. He's had a bad lap and a bit. As he now finds himself with a 3-second penalty and is down in 40th place. But the attrition rate we've seen so far in this one, just finishing it cleanly, will be enough to get points. And maybe that will be what some of these guys switch their focus to in this race. Jake Marsh making these soft tyres work, staying with Cameron here. Perhaps it'll be smarter just to stick behind the Haas car at the moment. These two trying to keep up, or at least catch the leaders, and also equally stay ahead of the battle for P6. They are pretty much in no man's land at the moment except for each other, as Yagazan sets the fast lap on the race on the previous time by. It's getting quite exciting here. It's got a battle for P6. Charlie Moon just ahead of Van der Brugge at the moment. Van der Brugge looked like he got a bit wide there off the previous corner. He's going to be under pressure from Fruitful. Both of these cars with DRS, but they're going to go down the inside of 2 cars as Fruitful. And because there be contact here, looks like there definitely was some sort of rubbing going on in turn 4 between Charlie Moon and Fruitful. Fruitful, I don't think he wanted to necessarily pass 2 cars there, but the power of the DRS and the ERS pushed him into that situation. But he does get ahead of Van der Brugge, who looked to have made a small mistake on the exit of the centre S there. But he now finds himself down in 8th position on those medium tyres, trying to make something happen. But the top 3 still in a league of their own. Lynx for Ferrari, Davey for Mercedes, and Kart Racer for McLaren. three teams that in real life I haven't really seen fight especially much, of course. At least not exclusively, I suppose. But yes, the top three are those at the moment, and Cameron and Jake do look to be dropping back from this lead group, and that seems to be their first stints at least done, because once you lose that DRS, you're going to struggle quite a bit to make anything happen. So they'll imagine just sit, work together perhaps, and try and live up this stint. But as I say that, Jake Marsh will go down the inside and pass Cameron into turn 4, gets that move done, and they swap positions once more. Jake Marsh now up into 4th place, Cameron in 5th. This battle looks like the most exciting part of the racetrack at the moment. But as I say that, I've noticed that Charlie Moon has dropped 5 positions. So that's some more drama there for the Alfa Romeo team, who have some issues now, as the teams with A's in their names, or at least the start of their names, seem to be having issues so far. We have the spin for the Alpine of Mitch, with the crash for the AlphaTauri of Jasak. We had the spin and then retirement of the Aston Martin of Milan, and the Alfa Romeo of Bottle having some sort of issue here, dropping him down, or we saw him go off the track. And then of course the Alfa Romeo of Charlie Moon, who's had some strange issue and dropped down into 11th place. So looks like you don't want to have a car starting with the letter A in this one so far, as once again we have a switch of position up in the battle for P4. We've got a battle here as all this. Look at that, big contact, and around goes Chiquito. He's off the road backwards. That was a very strange incident into turn 1 there. Those two came together before they even really got to the braking zone. I don't know how that one's happened, but nonetheless, that is Yakazan also with some sort of issue here. He's losing time as he's gone off the road down the hill. He's got a battle going on between the Williams and the Alfa Romeo of Rafa and Charlie Moon. Charlie Moon trying to get himself back up the order into the position he was before he had some sort of issue, but now behind Rafa, trying to get back past, but at the moment sitting in the points. Some drama has happened so far, and once again it's an Aston Martin that's had a problem. It's another A car that has gone off the road and ended up facing a direction it should not be facing. But Yakazan has definitely had a lot of issues here. Has he got some sort of tyre problem? All 4 tyres look to be up. Has he got wing damage perhaps? Is that front right end plate missing? It is indeed. That's the issue he's got. He's got missing end plate, which is going to cost him a lot of front downforce, and he's going to be under pressure and immediately passed by Chiquito as he goes off the road. And Chiquito up in 12th place. Yakazan having issues, and for the first time in this race, it's a car that doesn't make him an A. Unless you, I suppose you could. I'm going to try and pull this one off. It's a Mercedes AMG. Yep, that's how far I'm stretching to make this A link work. But yes, that is a penalty for Van der Brugge. For each second time penalty, multiple warnings, track limits, of course. A track where it's fairly easy to have some problems. But yeah, now we see leaders heading up through Ferragira now, making their way through into this twisty section of the race. Look how close they are. He's got an issue for her back, as that is Van der Brugge with another problem, and he's gone around and lost his entire front wing. These drivers are dropping like flies now, and there's 2 A's in Haas, and that's where the A link is going to continue. I'm getting desperate, I won't lie, but we're keeping this up, as now Cheeto's going to pass him up into 11th place. Van der Brugge dropping out aside of the points. Van der Brugge going to limp that Haas car back into the pits. Just trying to survive his way back now. Got to be careful of other cars that have front downforce. Make sure he doesn't get in their way, or at least doesn't damage any of them. As Lynx continues to lead this race, I haven't seen much from him so far. This lead 3 have been very well behaved, I must say. Being happy to stay single file so far. As the battle for P4 continues to switch positions. Cameron ahead of Jake now. And let's see, will these guys swap positions again? Looks like they're going to stay in the same order into turn 4 at least. As now they go through Interlagos and now back up towards Ferragira. Cameron up in 4th place, Jake in 5th. These two in no man's land at the moment. The top 3 2 seconds ahead. Fruitful and the train behind him are 3.5 seconds further back. Fruitful, to be fair to him, is broken DRS at the moment to Rafa. Now if he can keep that up until the end of the lap, that is a big break for the Ferrari driver. He could be able to break away from this group, and if he can, that could well be crucial for his race. Just allows him to focus on himself, focus on his own lap times without worrying about the threat of attack from behind. Let's see as we look back from the Ferrari. What is the gap going to be like as they come up the hill? That is a 1.1 second gap. He is going to maintain that gap as they go through the DRS protection. And now where they would be opening DRS, they are not going to be. At least those, Rafa isn't behind him, as he's used all of his DRS here. That could put him at risk later on. As into the pits has come Charlie Moon. That is a very early pit stop for the mediums, I would think at least. Maybe I'm wrong on that one, but that at least seems to me to be an early pit stop in this one. But yeah, that is onto the hard tyres, so perhaps... that's a strange call. I would have thought this would be a medium soft or softer medium, to be honest, but clearly Charlie Moon knows more than I do. As he pits onto the hards, didn't change his wing, so it doesn't look like that was the issue. Perhaps just wants to go off strategy, try something different in this one. But Link still controlling this race so far, and just holding on out front to a decent gap, not a massive gap behind him, but a big enough gap to feel safe, as it seems that those behind him do not fancy overtaking him anytime soon as they go through Junkao and back up the hill. It's a very hilly racetrack, this one, lots of undulation throughout the lap. Lynx continues to lead, and everyone else seems to be staying out in this racetrack, so everyone else seems happy with the tyres as Davey's in it, close to the back of the Ferrari, perhaps starting to put some pressure on the Ferrari in lead of this race. Lynx doing his best to hold on. I think he knows that, he's not got an issue with leading this race. Although I say that, look at his ERS. I mean, is it worth defending that much with that ERS situation? This kart racer will look at the move there for second place, but at what points does Lynx just accept his fate, drop into second or third, and then manage the race from there? Because Dave with 70% ERS, the kart racer with nearly 80%, it's very much looking like Lynx is the worst off of these top three, with less than 20% ERS in his car at the moment, just flicks above it now in that braking zone, but at a significant disadvantage so far in this race. And unless he sort of swaps position with those two behind him, he is not going to see an improvement. He has to just stop it. It seems like a stupid thing to do, but he just has to stop using ERS. If he lets himself lose the lead of the race, he may think, well, why would he do that? That's going to lose track position. But around here, just holding onto that DRS, he can re-save up his ERS and survive. But as things stand, he is just wasting ERS because it's not going anywhere. He is just maintaining a gap that has been there for a while. He's not pulling away out front. If he was, then fair enough, use the ERS, but so far, not looking great for Lynx, despite the fact that he's led every of the first 13 laps so far today. Not really doing much in the way of ERS conservation. But yes, he'll be looking to try and take his first win. Around a track like this, it's a track that is known for its brilliant racing, so I imagine we will see great racing no matter what happens here today. As we do have a battle here between Rafa and Fruitful. Just a few laps ago, spoke about Fruitful breaking that gap behind, and that didn't last very long, as Rafa has clearly got back in the DRS and got back past the Ferrari driver, using a lot of ERS to do so, but is now up into 6th position. And surviving his way as Van der Brugge has set the fast lap of the race on soft compound tyres. He's got his own unique strategy going on here at the moment in this race. Perhaps he knows that his only chance in this race is if a safety car comes out, so may as well have some fun on his way to a decent position, hopefully, for the Haas driver, but at the moment, not looking too great. As the battle for the lead is looking to be a continuation of what we've seen so far. It's got an issue there. Is that Charlie Moon? It is Charlie Moon who's gone around. As we see the leaders pit, they stay out once more. As look at that kart racer, really challenging for second place. Let's go on board with kart racer. Davey has to go a little bit deep. Let's see what happens here as Cameron does come into the pits on those soft tyres. Looks like those have finally given up in this race. Let's see, can kart racer make anything happen? He wants to get past into second place. David's doing all he can to defend. They're going to be wheel to wheel for second place behind the leaders, and that is going to be maintaining the positions by the looks of things. Davey holds off kart racer and doesn't lose a position there, and kart racer fails to make the overtake work. However, that is good news for Lynx. This is forcing these guys to use a bit more ERS. But Davey's still very much on top of the ERS situation here out of these group of cars. But it's very much feels as though Davey and kart racer just swapped their ERS situation, as Van der Brugge goes even quicker on this lap. But yeah, it's a strange situation here as they go through Pico de Pato. Now back down towards Junkao. Trying to use corner names as much as possible here, because there are some great corners here in Interlagos with some names that I can just about attempt to pronounce. So when I can, I'll give it a good go. But Davey now in second is going to once again probably have to look at his mirrors unless kart racer gives up on this attack briefly. He may just consider sticking behind for now. But Jake into the pits for Williams. What can he do? Where will he come out relative to Cameron in this battle for P4? To be fair, the undercut for these two could well help them out catching the leaders, because I mean, even though in the mediums, if they can get in the DRS of the top two, I think the top three, sorry, they might be able to reattach themselves and get back in the fight up front. So that'll be an interesting one to see. But I believe Cameron is going to be ahead of the Williams driver, and by a decent margin here, as he is on the racetrack whilst the Williams driver makes his way through the pit lane. As we see a great view of his pit box. And yes, indeed, Jake Marsh 1.1 seconds behind Cameron in 10th now. I don't think I'm biased realistically, but however, I would like to see Cameron put in some great laps here, purely for the sake of another car in this battle for the win would be quite exciting. Now, whilst the mediums aren't the tyre you want to be on at the end, certainly no downside to it. In the sense of the DRS will be worth it at that point in the race. Just now going to try and put in some very strong laps as they continue to, so far, seem to maintain position up front. They are continuing to be, I mean, no offence to the guys, but quite boring. I think, you know, chuck a move down the inside someone. Try it. I of course, always encourage good racing. But of course, these guys, they know what they're doing. They're much smarter drivers than I would be. So, they have their plan. They're going to stick to it. And at the moment, Lynx still very low on ERS, but in the lead of the race, which I think is what he's focused on at the moment in this one. And I do not blame him in the slightest. Just seems very much like they're sitting status quo at the moment for these top three. The pit stops, what I imagine will be around lap 20 to 22 would be my predicted pit stops, but my predictions haven't always been that great here, as they all have stayed out on this occasion. Is Cartwright going to go for the move here for second place? He's getting mighty close, but will he go for it? No, he's going to stay behind on this occasion. Sun looks to be popping its head through the clouds at the moment, so looks like the track is going to perhaps heat up a little bit at this point of the race. But Davey continuing to hold on to that second place, much to Kart Racer's annoyance. He is stuck in third. I think the thing is, Kart Racer knows if Davey does eventually go, okay, I'm passing Lynx now, Kart Racer's going to be stuck in third and won't have the DRS advantage over Davey to make anything happen. And it could just be, if Lynx can fight, sort of, perhaps doesn't fight too hard, it could end up being a situation where Davey just takes the position, swaps with Lynx, Lynx gets into second place, and Kart Racer is still stuck in third and unable to really get in the mix. So I think he wants to be in second because that's probably the best seat in the house right now in terms of both ERS and in terms of track position, because that DRS is so important here. And if the car in front of you doesn't have it and you do, what more could you want, quite frankly? That is a perfect situation in this race. The leaders, will they pit? Nope, they're staying out again. I imagine it will still be another few laps before we see these guys pit for any new tyres. So they make their way through here. Will be another thing interesting to keep an eye on is when these guys do pit. Do they pit all together? Do we see someone try an undercut? Do we see someone try an overcut? I doubt we'll see the overcut attempted, just purely because you want to be in this DRS train. I do imagine we could see these guys just follow each other in. Just the only one I could perhaps see trying something different is very much Kart Racer in that third place. If he goes for the undercut, he's got less to lose, I suppose, in that third place. He'll definitely want to be up into second place in this race. I think that's, as I said, the best place to be. Whereas Davey and Lynx, I think, seems to be happy in the lead, so he'll just do what he's doing at the moment. And of course, he can't. It's harder for him to react to the cars behind him. But you know, Kart Racer can try something different, and Davey, I don't think he'll want to pit any sooner, because, or later for that matter, because he's happy in second. He just wants to stay in that second place. And so far, so good for the Mercedes driver, who looks like he's, getting ready to copy the decision that Lynx makes. The way he sort of moved across the pit entry there looks like he's just preparing himself. He knows that his best bet is just to follow Lynx in. So that seems to be what his plan is so far in this race. So we have some close racing further down here, as I believe it's Micheluzzi and Dommel, who are quite close to each other on the racetrack. So making their way out of the centre S, down towards turn 4. Micheluzzi in the DRS, but not going to try anything here. But yeah, that is a decent situation. These guys yet to pit in the race. The entire top 8 is yet to pit in the race. So when these guys do, I imagine it'll promote Cameron and Jake Marsh back up into 4th and 5th, which they were running before. Dommel gets a 3-second time penalty. Van der Brugge gets another 3-second time penalty. He's had some issues in this race as well. Yeah, we've got a lot of... we've got a fairly spread out field, but we do have quite a few little mini battles in this race, which I'll try and keep an eye on as much as possible. 15 cars still in this race. But yes, let's look at the leaders. What will they do? They're pitting on this occasion, all three of them, following each other in. It is first in Lynx, then it is Davey, and then it is Kart Racer. None of them sped. Let's see. Could we see any problems in the pit lane? Will we see anyone get any positions? Will we see anyone lose any positions? They're all switching to the soft compound tyre. What will happen here? And it is Lynx staying out ahead. Then it is Davey, and then it is Kart Racer. The top three has remained the top three. Let's see what they do through the pit exit now. It's not the easiest pit exit, so they'll just try and push as hard as they can without making mistakes. They could well come out on traffic here, as we have indeed got some cars yet to pit. Cameron, who I did mention could well undercut his way into this lead group, has done just that. He's now in P3, at least net P3. Have on those medium tyres, not quite in the same good situation. Meanwhile, Jake Marsh, also on that undercut, is, I believe, that's nearly contact between Bottle and Kart Racer. Kart Racer trying to get back up into the lead group. Jake Marsh in the DRS of this lead train now as well. So we could see, which is what I was hoping we could see, is a 5-car fight up front. But at the moment it looks like a 4-car fight for sure. Although Cameron is now losing that DRS as well, which could cost Kart Racer, and he is dropping back. It looks like, look at how good those soft tyres are. They have roared away, and whilst I thought the mediums would be the weaker tyre, I didn't want it to be that much weaker, as now the top two are coming into the pits as well. And we see Tito follow them in, reacting to the leaders, I suppose, knowing that those guys know their stuff, and Tito does indeed come into the pit lane, which now puts it back into the lead of the race. Lynx with Davey following right behind at the moment. Kart Racer in third, he has got ahead of Cameron, but can he fight his way back into the DRS of the top two? Cameron drops down to 4th. Those medium tyres did not have the grip to stay in that lead group, as Bottle continues to stay out here on 21 lap old medium tyres. He's going to defend from the Williams to Jake Marsh. Jake Marsh on those fresher medium tyres is going to sweep around the outside of turn 4, and will get up into a legitimate P5. And it seems that we're starting to see the field return to the order we expected in this race, but Bottle yet to pit. He seems to be the last driver yet to pit in this race, so we could well see him in quite soon from a 6th position. But now we look back to the leaders. This battle we've got up front. Kart Racer will be pushing so hard to get back in the DRS, but I think both Lynx and Dave will perhaps see this as an opportunity to break away out front. They managed to limit their battle down to a 2-car fight. Much easier to control the 2-car battle than it is to control a 3-car fight, because 2 cars, if you're second, you can just pick and choose when you make the move, and if you don't go for it, you don't go for it. As simple as that. You can just hold position. Whereas when you've got that 3rd car in the mix, it changes everything. Look at that, a 107.8. Kart Racer's pushing. You can't deny that. It's a brilliant lap from the McLaren driver. Let's right on board with him here. Can he get himself into the mix? Trying to do something in this race. Top 2, if they continue to run nose to tail like that, I don't know if it'll be good news or bad news for Kart Racer. It's a tough one to call. If they battle, it's certainly good news. But as things stand, Kart Racer is going to perhaps gain a little bit in this part of the lap where Davey gets the dirty air. But will it be enough to get within that 1 second window, that crucial 1 second window for the DRS deployment? Up through Pico to Pico de Pato. Now down towards Juncal. Not going to be within DRS on this lap. Kart Racer is going to have to wait even longer. He's having to burn all his DRS to try and get himself in this fight. It's not going to be easy for him. It's going to be quite tough, in fact, to get back in this DRS. Davey will be happy to run in second at the moment, knowing full well that at the moment those top 2 are looking good. And with the ERS that Kart Racer is using, this is not going to be a fun fight back, because if this fight back doesn't work, once that ERS hits sort of below 10%, his charge back up the field is gone, and he will not have the chance of getting that DRS without a safety car involvement in the final part of this race. So things are getting better as Bottle. Has he finally pit? No, he's still out on the racetrack doing a mega stint here. As Van der Brugge is retired in the pit lane, he has given up at this race. But yeah, the Bottle sort of just falling down the order, is committed to a strategy that doesn't seem to be working so far. I mean, he could pit for softs like everyone else did, but he seems to be staying out so far. and try something a bit unusual in this race. So, I mean, if it works, it works, but so far it's not seemed to be the best strategy. But I think if he pits now, he'll be last anyway. So I think perhaps he's going to go as long as possible before these tyres puncture, and then pit for the softs, to give him the best chance if a safety car wants to come out. But equally, if his tyre punctures, then it could well be him that is the safety car cause. So not great for him, as there is a stopped car on the pit exit, so hopefully no one's pitting anytime soon. We've got to change of position here as the two Williams cars, as Jake Marsh, what's happened to him? He's lost 2 positions. It's Fruitful and Rafa on the soft combat tyres. Those mediums are really struggling now. This does not look like the strategy that you'd want to be on at this point, as Jake Marsh is dropping down the order, and it's looking like it might be a lucky break for him if he gets points in this race. It's a Fruitful and Rafa, and now the driver's charging up the order, and they're going to get Cameron soon as well. Cameron and Jake look like perhaps outsiders to be battling for the lead just a few laps ago, and now they're looking like they may struggle to even score points. This is crazy how this race has changed in this midfield battle, let alone how the leaders are battling away as well. So it's getting exciting, and you know, we said crazy season so far, who knows what might happen in the race. I didn't predict a difference in tyre compounds quite like this. It's feel like almost like more than a second a lap between the two compounds here. I suppose the only hope for the medium runners is that those soft tyres hit a cliff later in this race, and Cameron just does not look like he intends on defending that position. He is going to drop back and lose out on that position, as Fruitful is going to pass him as well. Jake is going to watch it up ahead of him. Cameron down to 6th, and it's Rafa and Fruitful up into 4th and 5th. The battle for 4th and 5th was between Jake and Cameron in the first stint, but now it is Rafa and Fruitful who will take over that battle for 4th position, as Rafa does not use any ERS at all on this straight, and is going to lose the position, and Fruitful gets up into 4th place, as Kart Racer looks like his challenge for the win may well be over here. He's doing his best to catch leaders, but he's just dropping back now, as Davey's got 100% battery. He has conserved so much, and I think he's just got one focus here, and that's just going to be that he makes the move on the final lap of the race, takes the lead away, and there's nothing that Lynx can do. The ERS is just not a good enough situation at the moment. But equally at the same time, you know, there gets a point where there's only so much ERS you can use in a lap, so it could be get to the point where he has not too much ERS, but more ERS than he needs. And if Lynx can save up, let's say 30%, that'll be enough ERS to probably defend into turn 4. So then it becomes an issue of, does Davey make the overtake before they get to turn 1, but be ahead for turn 4, because then he's not got the risk of Lynx fighting him. But then you've got the question of, well, what if Lynx doesn't use any ERS down the first straight, down into turn 1, lets Davey through, then gets the DRS down into turn 4, has the ERS then, if they match each other on ERS, it could well just come to DRS, and when it's just DRS, anything happens. Dommel is now retired from the race in the pit lane there, as Bottle has also finally pitted in this one. Just 13 cars remain, just 2 looking like they're in the battle for the win at this point, and I hate to break it up, but we can't rule out the possibility of these two getting a bit too close in this race. We've seen it previously this season, where the leaders battle too hard and have contact, and that lets someone further down the field get involved. So Davey, he nailed his timing last week in Zandvoort. If he can nail his timing again this week, he could well be a winner, but equally, if he gets it slightly wrong, he may well lose his chance at the victory. And if he gets it really wrong, maybe that'll hand it all over to Kart Racer, who's sitting 3rd in this race. But crucially for Kart Racer, whilst I'm sure he'll want to be up here fighting for the win with these two, if he's using no line today, which I imagine he will be, because Kart Racer is obviously very quick, I imagine he would be in this top 2 battle with line. If he is using no line today, it's a very impressive drive indeed to be back on the podium and looking pretty set to secure this podium in today's race. In only his 2nd PSGL race with no line, certainly putting a good statement forward, and if he can keep this kind of pace up, who knows, Kart Racer could all be in a higher tier in a short amount of time. But currently running 3rd in this one at the moment, with Davey and Lynx up front doing their best to, well, try and win this thing. But it seems like, as I've said many times in this race, the control is very much in Davey's hands. He wants to win this thing. He has the ERS, and he has the DRS, crucially. Lynx is sort of just driving at the moment. It's a strange thing to say, but he is just sort of managing this race. Not much he can do at this point, as he does just drives as quick as he can. If that's enough, that's enough. But if it isn't, there's not much more he can do. In this one, perhaps he starts to think about dropping behind Davey. But Davey doesn't want to pass. He'll turn off DRS. He'll turn off his ERS if Lynx tries to let him through. So it's a strange one here, as DRS is open on Davey's car on this straight, but he's just using DRS to catch up. He's not using it to pass, which I suppose is understandable, but at the same time, as a spectator, I wouldn't mind it if these two had a nice little ding-dong battle, switching positions a few times. But I've got to give them credit. This is some strategic racing we're seeing up front here, and it is definitely going to come down to a close finish. That is one thing we are guaranteed here in this race. No matter what, do not go anywhere, because whilst the next 5 laps may not be the most exciting, the final lap, I have a feeling, will be quite spectacular here. Just like we saw in Zandvoort, and just like we've seen several times this season, it quite often comes down to the final lap of the race. In round 10 here of PSGL F6, it is Davey versus Lynx. Both of these drivers were on the podium last time out. Davey won last time out. Lynx was third. We are currently on a run of 5 different winners in the last 5 races. If Davey wins today, he will end that streak by taking his 2nd consecutive win and his 2nd win of the season. If Lynx wins this race, it will go to 6 different winners in the last 6 races, which goes quite the contrast from the, well, in the first 5 races of the season, we saw 2 different winners. And since then, we have just seen different winners each week, so Davey will be trying to ruin that nice little record we got going on. But yeah, Lynx doing all he can to try and keep that record going and getting Ferrari another win this season. Kart Racer, there's lots of penalties coming in. But yeah, Kart Racer started to catch up a little bit here. He saved up some ERS. He's 1.7 seconds behind. He's still quite at a deficit to those ahead, but perhaps this isn't over quite yet for Kart Racer. Running in 3rd position, 1.6 seconds back. He's clawed back quite a bit of time in these last couple of laps. He could get in the mix in this race, and you can never rule him out. I think I may have been too early to say that he was out of the fight. As things stand, out of the DRS is not where you want to be, and he'll be doing all he can to get in there. Just looks like perhaps he was too conservative on his pit entry and exit, and that has eventually cost him a chance at this point in the race. But currently it is Lynx and Davey up front in this Brazilian Grand Prix. It's got some close action further down the order. We've got a three-way fight here between Micheluzzi, Jake and Chiquito. These three, the other cars on track that are really that close. Rafa quite close to the back of Fruitful. That could be a battle that we see go down to the wire as well. They make their way through turn 4 and turn 5. Doing all they can to get as many points as possible, you know, whilst the focus may be on the battle of the race, when these guys have got a lot to fight for as well in these sort of minor places of the championship. They want to do all they can to get as high as they can in the championship, and prove that they have sort of that potential for the future. As we see now, Tito really pressuring Jake Marsh now, and I imagine that pass will happen any time. And now, well, almost definitely going to be down this next straight. Jake on his medium tyres struggling. Cameron has pitted for soft tyres. As whoa, that's a strange place to make the overtake. He went completely off the racetrack there. Surprised that isn't an illegal overtake, to be honest, there for Chiquito. That is a unusual way to do it when he seemed to have that pace advantage. But Cameron missed that one entirely. Sorry about that. But he's pitted on 2 soft tyres once again. It just seems that those mediums are just way too slow, and just haven't had the pace in this race. So shame for these guys. But as things stand, it is now Chiquito up into 7th place, Jake in 8th. He's sticking with these mediums so far. We've got Mitch in 9th, Cameron in 10th, trying to regain some positions in this one on the soft compound tyre. Kart racer now, just 1.2 seconds is the gap. Just a couple attempts and he will be back in DRS. If he uses enough DRS on the straight, he could well get himself in DRS for turn 4, or the straight towards turn 4. He doesn't use DRS on the straight though. It looks like perhaps he's changed his strategy slightly in these later stages of the race. Is he doing something different on his DRS front that's allowing him to catch up this much? 1.3 seconds back. I think if that gap's under 1.3 seconds, if that when they get to turn 4, he has a chance to get into DRS for the finish of this race. We could well still have a free car fight for the victory here. Doing what he can as kart racer. Making his way up the hill. And he is within that 1 second, crucially. But can he stay there? Just a few corners until we see the DRS detection point. It is on the exit of Junkow. 9 tenths back. I think it's going to be enough. Kart Racer, your championship leader, is back within DRS and is back in the fight for the victory. We have 3 cars who are going to go at it for the race win. Could this force Davey into a move earlier than he would have wanted? This is certainly not like Davey would have wanted to see in his mirrors, but Kart Racer has played this one to perfection and is back in this lead group. We have a 3 car fight for victory in Interlagos. We've got Rafa and Fruitful or Will to Will for 4th place. This is a finish you're not going to want to miss, folks. This is going to be an exciting one, and can we say that we're surprised after such the season we've had with some of the races we've had? Could we see more drama in the dying stages of this race? Kart Racer got 4 wins in the first 5 races. Can he get his 5th of the season today? He's had a bit of a dry spell, both before and after the switch to no racing line, but he's going to try and pull it back today. He's in the DRS. And at the end of this one, there will just be 2 laps remaining in this race. Through the final corner they go. Davey gonna have to look behind and ahead. Kart Racer does have the, well, third best ERS of these top group. Lynx has put in a great job, and he saved a lot of ERS here in this sort of final stages of this race. Perhaps that's the reason Kart Racer was able to catch up. Did Lynx stop pushing out front here? As into town when they go. All of these guys have just as good a chance as the other. It is fantastic to watch who will come out on top. ERS is fairly similar. Of course, Davey does have a significant ERS advantage, but when it comes to on the final lap, if they're not going to use that until the final lap, it's pretty much the same for everyone, because you can't use 90% ERS in 1 lap. If you can only use, let's say, 50% in a lap, Lynx is almost in a good situation as Davey is. It's minor differences, despite the big number difference. I feel like the effect it has on this race will only be minor, because they're all going to hit the limiter here. So I think there is a chance that this race goes down to the final straight of the race, which I would not complain at. It's going to come down to the dying stages as we prepare now for the final lap of the Brazilian Grand Prix, round 10 of season 30 here in PSGL F6 on the PlayStation side. It's going to be a close finish here as we prepare for the final lap of the race. It is Lynx leading the way as they come to see the checkered flag, the checker flag line for the penultimate time. Davey is going to go down the inside and make the move for the lead of the race, but he's going to be ahead coming down the hill. Lynx now is going to want to fight this one back. Can he get DRS? Can he use his ERS? Will it be enough to retake the lead? Davey's pushing as hard as he can. It looks like Davey is going to lead into turn 4. Has he played another race to perfection? Will it be enough to win here? I got yellow flags are back in the order, but it looks like this race for the lead is going to continue. It's going to be close here. Can Lynx stay close enough throughout the lap to try and get a run on him all the way to the line? This final lap is going to be one you don't want to miss. Davey continues to lead here. Lynx has led the whole race. He hasn't failed to lead a single lap, but he's struggling here. It looks like Davey has the pace. He certainly has the ERS advantage as they now come down towards the final proper corner, the final braking zone of the lap. It looks like Davey has got a big enough gap. This could be a crucial victory. Davey is going to lead them all the way towards the line. Will it be enough though? It's going to be Davey. The gap is big enough. He's going to win the Brazilian Grand Prix. Lynx does all he can, but it's only second. Kart Racer, after a great fight back, only manages 3rd there. He got back in the DRS, but it just wasn't quite enough there for the McLaren driver. But what a podium we have there. What a battle we had there. Davey put in a brilliant performance, and once again, for the 2nd race in a row, got that strategy to perfection and wins for the 2nd race in a row. The streak is over. For the first time since round 5, we have consecutive winners. Let's see, can Davey repeat the domination that Kart Racer put in earlier in the season? Or those is 2 wins. Who knows? But Kart Racer taking third here today, crucially, damage limitation, gets good points and is certainly still the favourite for this championship. After last week, perhaps some questions began to appear that maybe he wasn't quite as good with no racing line. Perhaps it wasn't quite going to have the pace that he needed to continue to lead this championship, but he's bounced back and he's proven everyone wrong. Takes third here today. And whilst the standout drive was definitely Davey, you certainly have to give good credits to Kart Racer as well. Put in a brilliant race. And does indeed take P3 and crucial points for the championship fight. Davey, I'm sure, will actually looking at the point situation, it'll probably stay at a 42-point gap between the top two here. But Lynx again, another podium for him. 2 races in a row on the podium. Can't give him any more credit than that. You know, he's put in 2 strong drives, just not quite had that edge required to win. But it is, there is your podium. It is Davey who wins here in Interlagos, with Lynx in second, and of course Kart Racer in third position. So here are your results for round 10 of the season. As I said, Davey wins from second on the grid. Lynx led most of that race but didn't lead the final lap. Davey didn't lead a lap except for the final one, and that's the one at the end of the day that matters. Got Kart Racer in third, and you got Rafa, who did win out in that battle for P4, 17th to 4th. What a drive there from the Williams driver. 12th to 5th there for Fruitful. 15th to 6th for Chiquito. You got Micheluzzi, Jake, Cameron, Bottle rounding out the points there. Jake and Cameron at one point in this race were battling over P4 and looked like they were going to perhaps even have a chance in this lead group battle, but they ended up 8th and 9th in this one, so went wrong for those on the strategy. But yes, only 13 finishes today, with I believe all but 1 car finishing on the lead lap of this race. So despite the fact that it only had 1 virtual safety car that happened earlier in the race, a fairly close finishing order here, despite plenty of incidents. It was an exciting race, and I look forward to next time when we go to Mexico. That should be another exciting race, which again I imagine will be decided on the final lap of it. So yeah, this is an exciting end of the season we have ahead of us. Make sure to tune in again next week for PSGL F6. But until then, thank you for watching, and goodbye.